right, so class is in session. All right, well, sorry for the slight delay. I guess they're not showing the speakers as photos, but had they been showing that, you could see that actually none of the 4 speakers are here today. So that was what the kerfuffle was about. I am representing, excuse me? Yeah. So I am representing the First Lady Jeannie. I'm in her place. We're the same delegation, and so very last minute, I was given the opportunity to speak this topic, and so I figured last night, let's get to work and try to put something together of value. Ironically, I am never nervous, ever, but I think I have swollen feet. It's called edema from long distance traveling, and my feet are so painful that I actually feel like somewhat fearful right now, and the topic is overcoming the fear of public speaking. Okay. All right, so I speak English sometimes. I grew up in Scandinavia, so I've kind of had an international background, and it's actually, I think, partly because of my Chinese and Scandinavian background that I think I grew up with a very strong sense of social, how do you say it? There's many good terms for this, but that social relationship that we have as a society. And since then, as an adult, I've gone back to live and work in the UK, and now I feel like I have to specify because of Brexit. So I've done the UK and Europe proper, and I've done some humanitarian work in Cambodia and Nepal and so on. And throughout this time, I've never taken a public speaking course. Unfortunately, maybe. I've never sought advice on how to speak publicly, but I have found myself on many stages throughout the process. And so whilst I think it's really important that we focus on technique, right, the skills to do something well, the skills of public speaking, for example, keep your hands within this box, right, make eye contact, all of these things are technique. Whilst I think that's important, I thought that maybe I would introduce a different angle to public speaking and talk about how about we step back for 1 second. Rather than focus on the skills and technique on the surface, i.e. stage right, stage left. I actually love moving around, but with this thing I guess I can't, right? Rather than focus on the technique solely, I want to ask you to step back with me and look deeper inside of you. True public speaking first starts with something deep inside, right? That is the true technique. So you can pay for a consultant, you can get a coach, and all of these are really important things. Get the resources that you can to sharpen the technique so you can get better, absolutely. But you cannot pay for a coach to substitute for authenticity, right? All right. So on that note, I thought I would at least give a little bit of structure to this talk. Because on the topic of A, public speaking, and B, authenticity, truly I think that's an ocean of a topic. We could just go on and on. So to simplify that for you a little bit, because I like organization, I thought I'd give 2 pillars. In terms of public speaking, I invite you to look at it this way. Pillar number 1. Speak like you're living it. And number 2, live as if you're speaking it. Now, besides the alliteration part of that, I'll provide some content, but honestly, that's it. All right. So I'll delve into what I mean by that. So number 1, speak like you're living it. What does that mean? What do I mean by that? Basically, speak what you're living. That's it. That's it. I feel like, can I get real with you a little bit here? Okay. I feel like these days with social media and the hashtagging and having to self-promote and having to stay relevant publicly, socially, digitally, a lot of us feel that strong sense of should. Oh, I should post this. I attended an event, so I should make it known that I was there, right? I should do this. Everyone's doing this. I'm a solopreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a mompreneur. I need to post this. I should. But here's the thing. When we do things out of obligation, it weakens our message. Right? We're no longer speaking as if we're living it. We're living it purely to post it. Right? And I get it. Like, I get the fact that you gotta stay relevant. We all do. It's a digital world. So I'm not trying to make some big social argument against digital marketing. No, that's not what I'm here for. But despite the fact that we're somewhat bombarded by messages of all of us doing Facebook Lives and posting and speaking and so on, the truth is that it is only when you speak from a place of authenticity that your message will ring loud and true, right? So like I said, when we feel like we're doing things out of obligation, merely to do it, to say that we did it, merely to quote unquote keep up to date with the other kids, right? Does that sound like high school, anyone?
Yes.
Okay. Exactly. It's like we're adults living high school again. Then that weakens the message. And there's nothing inherently wrong with doing something because someone else is doing it. Nothing inherently wrong whatsoever. However, if that's not from a place of deep desire to serve, or that's not from a place of deep reflection of your intentions and desires and what's important to you, like I said, your message will be diluted. And what's the point? What's the point of being on stage? What's the point of having a podium or having a Facebook Live and so on when the message isn't as strong as it could be? Right? True messages spring from within. That's why, although I acknowledge the importance of technique, the importance of skills, possibly taking a course, possibly working with a coach and getting advice and so on and so forth, we can all tweak our messages 100%. But the true message starts from within, all else follows from there. So I as a speaker, or I guess I as a person, I tend to be very theoretical. So abstract thinking, nothing tangible, everything in my head, that's easy for me. So over the course of the last few years, I've learned, okay, I have to contextualize a few things, make it a bit more pragmatic. So in that, in light of that, I thought that I would maybe bring up an example from my own life. So I'll talk about my own life and how I spoke about that, and then bring it home and hopefully make it relevant to you. Does that sound good? Okay, awesome. So like I said, I have spoken on stages across the world. Ironically, I never really asked for it. I just always find myself on stage, I don't know how. In terms of my story, to kind of contextualize what I just said about having to speak from within, I guess I'd say for those of you who just joined, I said that, I'm Canadian and I've worked abroad. I've studied in Europe and I've worked in Cambodia. I've set up some charity initiatives in Nepal and so on. So in terms of my own example, I guess, is that like I said, I found myself publicly speaking many, many times without having asked for it. But that being said, if you are wanting to specifically speak, that's okay too. It's just in my case, the speaking came after the action. The speaking came after my project has concluded. Either way is okay, but maybe we'll start with my example just to contextualize it a bit, okay? So, for me, I had a background of, starting from when I was young, I just had a strong intention to work in the community. So when I was about 14, like I said, I'm from a prairie city in Canada, so I worked in the inner city. I took the bus 90 minutes to the scary downtown core of, if you guys can imagine the North American city center. When I was a bit older, I would end up working abroad. So now I would do women's advocacy, or I would look at the social and economic drivers of women's health, how a woman's position in her family as well as in her society would lend her to have greater health, not just for herself, but for her newborns and her children, right? Women are the drivers of economic growth and health everywhere, right? So that was the work that I was doing for many years. Because every step along the way, I did what I thought was important. Not because social media told me it was important. Not because a hashtag told me doing that was trending. Not because my peers were doing it. I was doing this over a decade ago, and I think I was lucky in a sense that the digital age had started, but the social media age had not yet taken off. So anything I was doing, the primary intention, and I'm not suggesting that people are doing this, but I'm just a very blunt person, let's put it this way. So anything I was doing was not to be posted. That was not the intention. So however I showed up, was it perfect? Probably not. Like I said, in everything we do, we can do better. We can hire a coach, we can take a course, we can tweak our technique. But because the intention behind everything I did in all of my projects was first and foremost to serve, it was first and foremost to speak true to my intentions and my values. Therefore, by the time I was asked to speak about a certain topic, right, in this case it was often related to the projects I was doing. So women's health, women's empowerment, I was doing health policy and so on. By the time I was asked to speak about it, I had already lived it. So I invite you to look at the first pillar again. Speak like you're living it. My background happens to be in women's empowerment, children's health, women's rights, global development. Yours might be different, but by the time you're asked to speak about it, if you had lived it, showed up during that project, attended that event with the full intention of just doing that activity, then when you're speaking about it, oh my goodness, I think your message would ring so true. In terms of what fear is, from an energetic perspective, you can see that fear is somewhat of an ego thing. We're fearful because we're thinking of ourselves. How do we look? What do we look like? How will they perceive us? And yeah, these are very, very human emotions and very understandable, 100%. But truthfully, if you approach that speech the way you approached any good project you did, i.e. heart-centered, i.e. owning your desire to show up, owning your intention to do it, then, like I said, by the time you get your podium, your microphone, your stage, all you're doing is speaking what you've been living. There is no fear when you're communicating what you've been living. There is no fear when you're just downloading your desires and intentions, right? All right. I see a lot of nods, and then that threw me off. Thank you. Like I said, I heard about this topic yesterday. Yeah, so in terms of, so that's kind of my example. So although in my case, I never intended to be in public, I ended up being in public quite a bit. I think just because my thoughts, my desires, my actions, my intentions, and how I showed up to each and every project, how I showed up to each and every interaction with the stakeholders, the collaborators, the public, the women, all the people I was working with, was so congruent. Everything is energy. So by the time I was asked to speak, sometimes it was on the spot. You know, I was so naive when I was younger. I'd set up this charity foundation, hundreds of families would be, you know, in front of me, and then I'd be asked to speak, and I was shocked. I was like, oh, it's my role to speak? But that, you know, I mean, the naivety is besides the point, that when you're living your life, doing your job, showing up for your family, with the major purpose, not sole purpose, we're humans, we have various intentions at once, that's okay. But with a major driver for anything you do is to be authentic to what you believe in, to what your values are, and to why you're doing something, then not only are your results going to be way higher, way better, but by the time you're speaking about it, the message will ring so much truer, right? All right, so in terms of making that more relevant to you, I think that we can maybe think of it as, how do I say it? The what, the why, and the how. So the what was given to us by the conference. In this case, quote unquote, how to overcome the fear of public speaking, right? I didn't pick that topic, you didn't pick that topic, that's the what, right? I understand a lot of us may have fear or anxiety or worries. How will I look? Will I connect with the audience? And so on. That's the what. I hope I've given you a sense of the why. Your why will always be the driver of how you do it, right? Of how well you do it. I think sometimes, again, the digital age is beautiful, but one byproduct of that is we have a lot of memes, we have a lot of inspirational quotes all over our feeds, right? Nobody has time to actually read a real piece of, literature. It's just a sentence, it's just a cute little meme. Although I love those things, sometimes I wonder how much are we contextualizing that little sentence. Live your why, have a purpose. But let's really break down what that means. My suggestion is you really critically look at what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how you're showing up in that moment. Truthfully, I believe from an energetic quantum physics point of view, in every moment, everything you're doing, you're meant to be there and you're meant to do it. And I invite you to maybe consider that as a possibility for running and leading your life. Whether it's an event, a commitment, a quote-unquote obligation, a job, a time with your family, and so on, if you truly saw that moment as your purpose, then you would do that very well. And if you did that with everything in your life, wouldn't your life go really smoothly? Now when you're given the podium, wouldn't your speech go very smoothly? And what fear is there, right? Right. So that's the pillar of speak like you're living it. Now, very briefly, see, that's what I mean, technique. So very briefly, let's go into the second pillar, which is live as if you're speaking it. I want to invite you to maybe look at some of the best speakers in history, very quickly, okay? They may be very diverse in terms of age, country of origin, what time in history they spoke, but there's one common thread throughout all of these great speakers in history, and that is the energy. They all had such strong energy with which they led their lives and hence with which they spoke their speeches, right? Some were loud, some like banged the podium. I'm sure you can think of some examples. Some were soft, some were fast, quick, etc. They were different, but they all had energy. And remember what I said, everything is energy. If you infuse your daily life, your actions and your reasons for being there with your good energy, now when you're given a chance to speak and show up publicly, quote, i.e., get publicly rewarded for what you've privately been doing this whole time, your energy is authentic, you will connect with your audience, and your results will be incredible, right? So, I'm just thinking, sometimes you think you're on a roll and then maybe you missed a few things. I'm just trying to think. Yeah. Let me just give me 1 second. See, nothing's perfect. Yes, okay. So I want to just bring this home to connect this to you, make it relevant to you. You may have the intention to be a public speaker. You may want that to be your main hustle, and that's fair and that's amazing. Or maybe you want to be doing other things. You're a businesswoman, maybe you're a researcher, you're a teacher, and so on and so forth. And then on the side, on top of that, let public speaking be a cherry on top. That's fine too. Whichever end of the spectrum you fall, I just invite you to really think about the energy that you're carrying. Congruency is everything. In other words, we cannot fake anything, right? Humans are emotional. Yeah, it's true. We're very emotional and we make emotional decisions. What does that mean? Humans make emotional decisions about you. They'll then step back a bit and use logical reasoning to explain why they chose you as their teacher, their business partner, or so on and so forth. But at first, it was an emotional decision. It was subconsciously driven each and every time. So whilst they may not be able to articulate why they chose to go with you or not, they feel the energy that you represent. This is why. Not only do you live better, I feel you live a more fulfilled life when you show up congruent with authenticity. But if it's purely and only for business results and the end goal of doing better and achieving more, if that's purely what you're focused on now in this point of your life, which is fine, it's totally fine, then at least let me tell you, purely for your end deliverables, for your results, for that sake, show up authentically. All authentic speakers do better because they all connect with their audience better. Public speaking is the same as speaking on the phone, is the same as doing a sales call. When you speak your truth, your results will be much higher, right? So, lastly, I encourage you to live a life so grand, stand for something so important to you, and be something so authentic that by the time you get your podium, your stage, your microphone, you're going to speak so well. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? I don't know why I whispered that. No questions, comments? Okay. Because my bio isn't on the website, I came in last minute. Please keep in touch because I would love to hear from you. And I just have my Facebook and Instagram handle up there, so I hope to hear from you. Thank you so much.
How many of you feel butterflies in your belly before you step up onto the stage? And how many of you would love to find a couple of very practical steps and tools of how to tame them so they fly in formation? Great. You will see that I'm not here. I'm not on that stage. But I can tell you, I've been so many times on stage, and every single time I do step up again, I feel these butterflies. After hundreds and thousands of times on stage, I still feel these butterflies. So when you feel these butterflies, welcome them. You know why? Because it means you care. They say if you don't feel these butterflies anymore, don't go and speak. Because it means you don't care. And I will give you 3 very quick hints and tips, very practical, that hopefully will help you to tame your butterflies. Sounds good? Yeah. I'm going to just share them right away. The first one is, before you step up on the stage, you prepare. You prepare your speech. The second is, you speak from your heart. And the third one is, you speak from a place of service. So let's go through them all step by step. Are you ready? So funny, you say do this one. I love the Indians, whereas in Germany means no. I love that. So the first one, prepare. How many of you have ever given a speech and afterwards you felt like, oh my God, that was not my best speech ever. I should have done better. I should have said this, or I should have done this. How many of you have ever been in that situation? I think all of us, right? Everyone that speaks, right? Especially when we're starting out, our first speech is not our masterpiece. But I can tell you one thing. Whenever you speak, you're normally giving 3 speeches. Okay? You give the one you prepare, or you have 3 speeches. The one you prepare, the one you give, and the one you wish you had given. Okay? However, it's all in preparation. How many of you are pretty new to public speaking? Good. So what I'm going to give you now is preparation, a couple of things on how to prepare. When you're building a house, what you build is first you build the structure, and then you put the interior design in. Yes? That is how you prepare a speech. So every speech has the following structure. You have an opening, you have a middle part, and you have an ending. And the opening is very important because what you say first is how you connect with your audience. Yes? It's like first impression, right? So what can you do as an opening? You can do a lot of things. You can ask questions, because then you make your audience start thinking about your topic, and they stop thinking about dinner at night or something else, right? So you connect them with you. Also, you build a bridge to the audience. You make your topic relevant to them when you're asking a question, and you start getting to know them. When we start getting to know someone, we feel less nervous, right? Yes? So you can ask a question, you can tell a little story, or you can share a quote or say something provocative just to warm up the audience, right? Okay? And then the middle part. The middle part, you can always ask yourself, what are 3 things supporting my major message? Okay? There is so much power in 3. Every experienced speaker knows that. So before you even step up on stage, you ask yourself, what is the message? What do I want to speak about? So here the topic is, how do you master stage fright or fear when you step up as a speaker, right? So you ask yourself, what could be 3 things that help the people in the audience to understand that message? Because once you're clear on your major message, it is what people carry in their minds and hearts outside. This is what they will remember long after you've left the stage. This is what they're going to say to others that ask them, what was the speaker talking about? You want them to remember that one message. And once you know that message, you can think about, what are 3 points that will help people to understand that message, to take it along, to make it relevant to them, and to learn from it so that they can do things differently, right? So this is why today for you, I know what helped me most as a speaker is I get my butterflies fly information when I prepare, when I speak from my heart, and when I speak from a place of service. So this is why I share that with you. So find these 3 things that you feel will support your major message. And then also find an ending that is powerful. Why? Because whatever you say last is what people remember, right? So close off again, and Lily did that beautifully as well. You gave us some hints and tips on how we can embrace that now, and how we should speak authentically. That is something that's going to sit with me, right? You can also tell a little story at the end, or even leave the audience with a question, right? So that is pretty much the structure of your speech that you can prepare. The thing with preparation is, sometimes we have 5 minutes to prepare, sometimes we have a year to prepare. I honor Lily for stepping in for a friend and giving a speech, and you didn't have a year to prepare for that. And still you gave an incredible speech. So just, in that moment, take the time you have, but the most important is, no matter if you're prepared, just feel prepared, because your life gives you everything you need anyhow to give an amazing speech. Because we spoke about the structure, another thing you want to prepare is the meat. As I said, when you build a house, you build the structure first, and then the interior design. So what is the interior design in your speech? What do you think it is? What could you put into a speech to bring it alive? To add design and color and liveliness? What can you bring into a speech?
Life experiences.
Sorry?
Life experiences.
I love it. Life experiences, right? Wrapped and packaged in the form of your stories. I had a beautiful conversation with a lady called Cassie yesterday, who spoke about, you were there, right? Hard math and how to really use words that change the world. And she also said one of the greatest hints and advice she ever got from a speech mentor was, speak about your own stories. Why? Because when you share your own story, it's like you see a picture in front of you that you will always be able to describe. So if you share your own stories, it means you are authentic. I mean, Lily spoke about how important it is to be authentic. When you share your own stories, other people have probably experienced something very similar, so they connect with your story, so they connect with you, right? And you don't get stuck. You don't lose your line of speaking. You don't forget what you wanted to speak about, because you know your story, right? You're in your story. You bring that across. Also, you can, interact with the audience, do a little bit of an exercise to make it relevant for them, to give them an experience. You can share quotes, you can share facts and figures, and a lot of other speaking elements. But when you have your structure, also bring your speech, make your speech alive by adding these things. And the most powerful ones are stories, right? We worked with one beautiful speaker last year, Samia is her name, and she was very excited to step up on this big stage, and we worked on her speech beforehand. And all we did is we got her to think about stories to bring her message across. So from one day to the other, she changed her speech altogether. As she was stepping up on the stage, big panel, one of her first speeches ever, she opened her heart, shared her story, and got a standing ovation. I was so proud of her. Okay? When you share your story, again, you connect with yourself, you become authentic, and you connect with the audience, and they take something valuable away. And they feel they're not alone in the world having experienced that thing, because they know you have too. So that's the first one, preparation is key. There's a beautiful book I can just share with you that I love, changed my life. It's called The 4 Agreements. You know, how many of you have read that? Yeah, it's all amazing. And one of these 4 agreements is saying, always do your best. When you know you've done your best, there's nothing for yourself to beat yourself up at all, ever, right? Okay. So let's step into the second one. The second one is speak from your heart. And how do we speak from our heart? I'd love to, all of you, you're sitting the whole time, why don't you stand up for a moment? I do a little exercise with you. Are you ready for that? Yeah? Grab someone next to you. Okay. And everyone has someone. You can do this together. Oh, I love holding hands. Guys, just I'm the lucky one. I have to. Just each person finds a person. It's important that you're one-on-one. And then you face each other, please. Face each other. Okay. Everyone has someone? Yeah. You have some. Oh, there's someone walking just into the room. There you go. Okay, listen, please. I know that you all love talking, but please let me do the talking. And just for a moment, and I want you to all go into your mind, connect with your brain, and then say to the other person, It's great to meet you. But go do it from your mind. Just great to meet you. Great. Good. Okay, good. So now we do it again, but I want you to go into your heart, feel your heart. Feel your heart and look at the other person's eyes and look and see and feel her heart and say from heart to heart, I'm so happy I'm meeting you. Oh, and give each other a hug. Give each other a hug. Not move. I'm serious. Okay. I love you. Okay, guys. Okay, sit down again. Okay, where we're sitting, sit down again. Let me ask you about your experience. Was there a difference between the first and the second one? What was the difference? There was more kindness. What else? What was the difference between the first and the second? Yes.
Second one was more eternal.
It was more internal. And what did that do to you when it was more internal?
Eternal.
Oh, eternal.
Yeah, it gave me like
Shivers.
Forever. Like you made a lasting connection.
Yes, and it gave me goosebumps, and I was like about to cry. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. How many of you felt touched when you did it the second time, more than the first time? So now here is a hint. You wonder probably what does that have to do with speaking. Here's my hint to you. You know, I've been speaking to 5 people, 10 people, 500, 3,500. The good news is, every time you're on stage, no matter if you speak to 5 or 5,000 people, you speak to 5,000 individuals. So when you step up on stage, just connect with someone like beautiful Beata. Okay? Look her in the eyes. See her, feel her from the heart. Let me ask you, beautiful women at the back of the room, when I look into her heart, do you feel that connection?
The energy.
You do. That's one of the secrets of being a professional speaker. When you connect with one person, but honestly, openly, authentically, from heart to heart, everyone in the room feels it.
Amazing.
Yes? This is my little secret number 2. When you speak from your heart, you tame your butterflies because it stops being about you. You hear me? You want to hear the third one?
Yeah.
Yes. The third one is speak from a place of service. A beautiful, beautiful mentor and lead trainer of a lot of top motivational speakers around the globe, and a great friend of mine said, Monique, in service there is no fear. In service there is no fear. So from all these speaking techniques I have applied over the years, this one made the biggest difference to me. Why? Because it's so true. Before I step up on any stage, no matter if I speak to 5 or 500 or 5,000 people, all I tell myself is, Lily said that so beautifully, before you step on a stage, get clear on your intentions. My intention is always, I say, I just would love to touch you. I just trust that whoever is meant to hear what I'm meant to say is going to hear it. I trust that even though I prepare my speech in the greatest possible way, the moment I step away, or the moment I step onto stage, I let go of all my preparation. And I let whatever wisdom is there flow through me. I become an instrument. It's not about me anymore, it's about you. It's about Beata, it's about Lauren. It's about you, it's about every one of you. So I just give my best. Like right now, I'm giving my best, but not for me, but for each and every one of you. So before you step up on stage, just say this to yourself. I trust that I will find the right words. And I trust that the people that need to hear my message will hear my message. And I trust with me stepping up on that stage, I will be able to make a difference. One person in the audience, one speech, one stage at a time. So this is a little bit of wisdom about myself. I did not introduce myself yet. Maybe I do that right now. My name is not here. This is another little hint. Whenever you get an opportunity to speak, take it. The more you speak, the more you tame your butterflies next time. And the more you give, the more you practice, the more difference you make, the more connections you create, the more hearts you touch. And the more hearts you touch, the more hearts touch you. Yes. Okay. So I've been, as I said, I've been speaking all over the globe. Lily is so lucky. She wasn't asking for speech opportunities. She was getting them. I keep asking for them, and I'm getting them. So every time, also when you step up on stage, someone is ignited with your speech and is saying, "Come and speak at our event too." Okay. So I've been really on a lot of different stages. I've spoken at the European Parliament. I've spoken at the United Nations at a leadership conference. I've spoken in Malaysia, sharing the stage with a former prime minister. John Kerry as well. Back then, he was a foreign minister of the States, and a lot of really pretty good, amazing personalities. But it's not about them, and it's not about the place. It's again about every single person that's in the room, that happens to be in the room, that you are lucky to touch and walk with. So how do you tame your butterflies? Let's summarize. And by the way, I'm also running a global speaker community. So if you want to step up with your speaking, if you want to go onto more stages, if you want to start getting paid to speak, please don't leave the room without either giving me your business card or leaving me your details, because we are happy to invite you. We have people from all over the world that are aspiring speakers that want to step up with their speaking. So you can cross-connect with others. We can recommend stages to each other and so on. So please connect with me if you're interested in learning more and stepping up with your speaking and connecting with other speakers. I'd love to have you with us. So let's summarize what we said. How do you tame the butterflies before you step up on stage? You prepare. You have a beautiful structure and a live interior design of your speech. You speak from your heart. And you speak from a place of service. And I tell you, you'll have butterflies forever, but from now on, they will fly in formation. Thank you for sharing.